We are all going through a planetary purge. And some of you have not been feeling well lately, especially after our Mount Shasta event. And I was wondering why. Is it a backlash? What is it? Well, we did a lot of fiery prayers that Saturday evening in Mount Shasta, maybe more than many people are used to giving. And there was an action of purgation, which is an intense transmutation that can even happen physically. So the purgation is a riddance of ourselves of something, whether it's toxins of the body, toxins of the emotional body, the mental body, the memory body. Purgation is meant to rid us of elements within ourselves that no longer serve us, so that we can rise higher and get closer and closer to the divine light and feel more connected with our presence. This purgation is like a roasting. And if you feel the intensity of decrees, such as what we just gave, creating a heat in your aura and even in your physical temple, that's a good thing, because the heat and the fire is transmuting and it is roasting you in a good way. It's like roasting coffee beans that unlocks their flavor, right? So when we are roasted and toasted in this way, it unlocks our divine flavor, our eternal essence, so that we can feel like we are stripped away of things that are not real or that are no longer necessary in our life. And we can feel through that purgation this clarity, a beautiful new clarity of consciousness, clarity of mind, clarity of heart and feeling, and even clarity of memory. So if you are having memory lapses and little hiccups in your memory body, well, it's time to purge your memory body of ancient records, of things that may be there through your mental body, which then are deposited into the memory body, that are not necessary for you to store there for the permanency of that etheric matrix of light, which is very crystalline in nature and very beautiful, very, very clear. So we desire to have crystal clear memory bodies. And the more we fill our minds and beings with what's going on in the world and just have so much to consider, it's like clutter, that we can use the violet flame, the white fire of Almighty God, to purge from ourselves, to have just a more simple and profound and active spiritual life, where what really matters is God. What really we desire is oneness. What is important is our connection with our source, and not all the outer things that drag us down into this earth and keep us attached to the earthy, keep us bound here, keep us tied to this unreality. Well, we have to get rid of the ballast and we have to be purged again and again. This is why in Catholicism, people are asked to go to penance, go to confession. So Melchizedek is here with us at my request to help us understand what is important in our life, which is the divine essence, the divine light, the divine flavors of our true selfhood. And if you have not confessed something that you should have to God, to a master, maybe to a priest if you are Catholic, consider writing a confession letter, burning it, and going deeper and deeper to allow this purgative process to ensue, so that you don't have to go to purgatory between lifetimes and have the intense transmutation, which feels like pain and suffering and anguish, because the heat is there, yet it's a spiritual heat. It's not meant to annihilate you. It's meant to help you rid yourself of, let's say, sins of omission and commission, or karmas, or things that have settled in your aura and in your consciousness that are really not necessary for you to go into heaven with, right? You can't go into heaven if you have all this baggage of unresolved situations, conflicts of consciousness, problems in your psyche, you have to get rid of them. And the fire of God is one of the greatest ways to rid yourself of this. And so this is why we accelerated the prayer to Estrella. I know it was probably a little fast for some of you. Some of us were used to giving it 36 and more times in the past daily for many years. And we developed that momentum not just for speed's sake, but for the purgation, because this is a call to purity, right? Purity in Estrella. And so the cosmic circle and sword just wipes out, erases, transmutes, and obliterates darkness, karmic fields of negativity, and entity possession. Remember, I made the call earlier for the freeing of every man, woman, and child on the earth from the attachment of entities. So after we call to Estrella purity, it's incumbent upon us to also call for the violet flame, because if you just detach the entities, where do they go? Well, they're hanging around, and so you have to have the violet flame to burn up the dross, burn up what's being transmuted or what's being released, so it can be fully consumed and then glorify God through that consummation, through that transmutation, through that purgative process. So we're going to continue to unlock the divine flavor within us as we are roasted in another way by giving more violet flame with an accelerated pace now. And then I'll release the second part of the message from Melchizedek. In our prayer to Melchizedek 80.007, it mentions in the third stanza, "Release engrams of crystal light now deep within our heart. Our sacred tithes and gifts are offered so you may impart your perfect peace, your radiant light unto our worlds with grace," etc. Melchizedek has a sobering message for us today that will be a shift for our movement moving forward. We had released close to 7,000 heart streams if you include all the messages that have been released in Meru University. This is a compendium of teaching that is really part of the everlasting gospel, because I was meant to carry on the mission of the prophets, who in effect were carrying on the mission of other messengers before them. And this was elucidated in a little booklet called The Vision. So if you have not seen that little booklet, we can send you one free. In fact, we can send 2 or 3 copies to you, and you can share it, especially with those who are in the summit. And the masters are ready to deliver even higher and more refined teaching. Yet the requirement is that people abide by certain divine rules or laws, and one of them is the tithe. So it is Melchizedek's desire that Sundays be reserved for anyone to hear the teaching free of charge. Wednesday mornings, Friday evenings, and this is one Friday per month, currently at least, and moving forward one Saturday per month in the evenings for 90 minutes also here in Livingston. These will be reserved for those who tithe, and the minimum tithe requirement is $33 a month, because most people cannot even live unless they make at least $330 a month. I mean, how can you even live in this day and age unless you have that much supply to pay for rent, food, etc.? Now, this may seem harsh to some. However, the reason for this is that if we are to fulfill our mission moving forward as a mandala of light, some teaching has to come forth that is very powerful, very elevated, very dynamic, and is for initiates. And so those who tithe are initiates, at least in that requirement. In other words, you cannot really be an initiate unless you give 1/10 of your resources back to God. What you earn, you give back to God. This is a universal law. It's in the Bible. It is obvious to those of us who've been doing it. I've been tithing since I'm 19. Many of you here, maybe even longer than me. Part of the reason for this is to sustain the dispensation of the heart center itself. Melchizedek says, if we have people that are just hangers-on and they desire to live in the flavor of the heartstrings without giving and committing to supporting the dispensation, then the masters will not necessarily continue the dispensation at the level that it should be elevated to moving forward. Originally, the dispensation for me to be a messenger was 12 years, and that was it. It was, by God's grace, continued for another 2-year period, and then again for another 2-year period, and then again for a 3-year period, and we're beginning the last year of that in January. So that'll be the end of that 3-year dispensation. The masters said they would not guarantee that we would have another 3-year period, but if so, one final 3-year period for me to receive heartstrings from the masters directly in their name rather than just David Lewis. We could have one more 3-year dispensation after the year 2023, but that would be the final for me being a messenger for the Ascended Masters for this dispensation. Now, it's possible that I would still be teaching, but it would be whatever would come forth would not be specifically sanctioned as from the Ascended Masters, from the Universal or Great White Brotherhood. It would just be coming through my higher mind, etc. So this is very sobering to some of you maybe who have never heard this. The shift and the change is necessary, not just because maybe we require funds to pay our staff. It is because the teaching that the masters desire to release can be a very high and mighty and beloved and very refined and very mystical inner teaching. Yet it cannot be just disseminated with no commitment whatsoever. It has to be for those who are committed to this path, and one of the major commitments, if you really desire to be an initiate, is to tithe 10%. I realize many other countries outside the United States don't have the same level of income that we have, yet even in other countries where the earning power is not as much, I do believe that you can actually make enough to give 10%, and this is net, not gross, 10% of your net income after taxes, that you can support at least a $33 per month request from the Ascended Masters. This is directly from the Master Melchizedek, directly from him. Remember, there was a number of years ago, maybe 5-6 years ago, teaching that we replayed earlier this year that was from Melchizedek, and the requirement was tithing. So I know some will feel, well, then I'm out of here, and that's fine. You may be out of here. That's your choice. Sundays will still be open to everyone. This is especially geared for people that would just like to check out what we have to offer. The Wednesday morning services are more intense, and we actually voted locally to not open up the Wednesday morning services to just anybody off the street, because if they don't know what we're doing and they just come in and they're not locked into the sacred spiritual work that we do, it can be a drag on that work. And so we here locally desired to allow that to happen. Now, what will this do for the other broadcasts in the mornings? That's open for discussion. And I'm not saying that the other days of the week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, people have to tithe to watch those services. That's something for our leadership to discuss. I believe that what the masters are saying is Wednesday mornings when I am here, and even the days that I come later, when I'm not leading the entire service, it would apply to those days. So every Wednesday moving forward. So if we decide collectively that the other days of the week are open, that's fine with me. I do not believe that Melchizedek is requiring that people tithe to listen to the other days of the week. That's my feeling right now, because yet, having said that, there are replays of dictations. So what will happen is there will not be replays of the Wednesday morning Heartstreams on other days of the week. They are only for the Wednesday morning services. And so from this point moving forward, the Wednesday morning services will not be replayed at other times. That teaching will not be part of the radio program. It will not be part of the 24/7 video broadcasting, you see, because we cannot guarantee that everybody who listens to those or watches those are tithing. So if we choose as a movement that maybe another day of the week, we would like to replay these, because not everybody can hear them Wednesday morning, that day of the week would have to also be limited to those who tithe. So at this point, this is the Master's word on this subject. Of course, everything that comes through me of a shift like this has to be ratified by our leadership and our council if necessary. So this is Melchizedek's word to me and to us tonight. I know it may be different than what you're used to, but guess what? Change is the order of the day, and the earth must come up higher. We have to deal with the energies that are at play right now in the earth, which are intense, and we're all feeling them. Some of you are buckling a little bit under the weight of the intensity of planetary karma and what is being outplayed, and the shift from Pisces to Aquarius, and the transmutation that is essential to get rid of the old systems and what is outmoded and no longer allowing us to move into the light of Aquarius and the golden crystal age. So there is going to be continuing purgation, and this is even prophesied in the New Testament in the book of Revelation. The elements melted in the heat of it. Well, that is an exact indication of this transmutative or purgation process when the elements were melting. Well, what are those elements? All the untoward conditions of our own consciousness that must go, everything in the world that is unreal and not based on truth and divine law, and everything that's been hidden from the public of deception. And this is, the great disclosure, the great exposure is occurring day after day after day. And those who are not willing to face the truth will hide themselves from that light of Christ, that light of the Divine One, and they will be in a world of hurt, in a sense, because when the truth comes and you're staring into the face of the living reality of the white light of the Christ and of Melchizedek, and of these great saints robed in white, what can you do yet to melt and feel that in your human element you're unworthy, yet the only thing that's worthy is the divine within you. And that's what you have to clasp onto and be strengthened by, is the God within you that is true and real. And so those who have not faced the truth will be faced with the decision whether to accept it or to reject it. And if they accept it, they are welcomed into the fold of the enlightened ones. And if they reject it, then God will deal with them through their own karmic cycles. And that's not for us to judge. It's just, it is what it is. And it's the law. It is the law of acceleration, the law of evolution. And we have to be evolving and growing and expanding. The Masters come at key times to accelerate us. And this is one of those times of acceleration. I felt it in Mount Shasta when we had 28, 29 people in Kathleen and Robert's home. We were giving those violet flame calls. And I can tell you, with the presence of Lord Zachiel, it was intense. I turned almost beet red during that dictation because it was so fiery. I mean, when you're in the presence of an archangel, can you imagine that you would be a little bit, burned and purged? I mean, that's the way I felt. And I believe that some people may have physically reacted to that, and the purgation was so intense that their body, if they were a little bit in a weakened state, could not quite handle that intensity. That's my explanation for why some people are not feeling well. Now, it could be more than that. It could be many things, but that's my sense of it. So there's no judgment there. It's just an observation. I love everyone that was there, and I respect everyone, and I honor you for being there. Yet I realize that sometimes the intensity is a lot to bear. So does anybody here tonight have any questions or comments regarding what Melchizedek is sharing? Is it uncomfortable for you? Do you feel okay about it? What is your assessment of this message, anyone?
I sensed it coming.
Well, okay, go ahead. Put the camera on you. You want to say anything?
The camera. I sensed it coming.
You felt it coming.
Well, there's the world, the situation, the times require it. That's just it. How do you affect change? Well, you have to, change the equation, and this does that.
And it's about commitment, really, because with all that's happening on the earth, I have to increase my commitment. I mean, I just heard the Master say one Saturday a month. I mean, I've been in the bliss of not having to lead Saturday evening services. I'm going to have to do that, So it was great being in Mount Shasta with all the people. They've been having these Violet Flame meetups for years now, and people come from different dispensations, and it's really a fantastic thing that they do this. They have prayers from the Summit, from Heart Center, and from other dispensations. So I was really in the glory of that experience with those heart friends there, because it was magnanimous. It was wonderful to feel the light and the presence of each one that was so dedicated to Saint Germain and to the violet light. So this is more of a commitment for me and for all of us if we commit to this one Saturday a month. And I propose that it be 2 weeks opposite the Friday night service, if that works. That's my proposal. So we have a little bit of a recovery time in there. Okay, anybody else? Now, I think everyone in this room pretty much is, by and large, you're all tithing already. And some people tithe in mystical ways, that we'll have to discuss. But whatever income you have is really God's giving it to you in some way or another, right? So we're not here to make paupers of anybody, but I think everyone, really, in the United States at least, and in many nations, can afford a minimum of $33 a month. So we'll see how that goes. That's the Master's word, not mine.